Yo, Skeptic here. Today, I'm gonna be talking about the Rivals 2 beta in no particular order. I've been working on this video for like 5 days straight and I couldn't get a good script going, so I'm just gonna ramble on in no particular order. Just talking about how I feel about the game, talking about the netcode, and my concerns overall. So, yeah, this video isn't gonna have a lot of visuals. There's just gonna be some gameplay footage in the background, so just have this video in the background or something. It's not gonna be that visually stimulating. But anyways, let's talk about the netcode. So I was pretty skeptical at first about the server-based solution that Rivals 2 was going for. But after playing on the servers myself, I was pretty surprised to find out that my experience was actually solid. Like, I actually was able to react to things, and out of like my 10 plus matches that I've played during the beta, I would say around maybe like 3 to 5 matches were kind of shaky, but my overall experience was just really, it was really good overall. And talking about the lobby system for a bit, I'm glad that they didn't reinvent the wheel like some other games. You just create a lobby or join a public lobby, and the system, just like spectator mode, it works. It just works. You make the lobby, you invite someone, and they accept the invite, it works. So I'm glad that they kept the lobby system simple and clean. Okay, so moving on to gameplay feel. I'm running an Intel Core i5 and GTX 960, and yeah, you heard me right. I'm playing on a GTX 960. It's basically prehistoric. It's extinct. It's a dinosaur. It's old. And the game still was able to run just fine. The gameplay was pretty smooth for the most part. Although there were some frame drops, it was most likely because I was recording at the time and also screen sharing, so that is definitely a factor to consider. But my experience overall was great. Like, the game ran fine. There weren't a lot of issues. Yeah, there just weren't that many issues, so the gameplay optimization, very good. Okay, so now let's talk about the new mechanics of the game. So shields, throws, grabs, ledges, the pummel system, get up specials, ledge specials, pummel specials, the new shield plat drop input, because shields are now in the game. I think throws, shields, and ledges are a great addition. Not only because it's familiar to newcomers of Rivals of Aether in general, but it also feels less stressful to play compared to Rivals 1. I couldn't really get into Rivals 1 because competitively, it's asking for a lot. Now, this is just my perception from my personal experiences of playing Rivals 1. And my perception on that game is that the skill floor for Rivals 1 is too high. The barrier of entry is just too high for your average player. Because you lack so many defensive options, you basically have to outmaneuver your opponents by utilizing your movement options and by using parries. And parrying as a panic option is not good because you are in so much recovery if you whiff the parry, and then you just end up taking a 50 to 60% combo that could even lead to death. So Rivals 1 was just a very stressful game to play in the neutral. And if you didn't know how to maneuver your way around and you didn't know how to outspace your opponent and whiff punish your opponent, the game just wasn't as fun to get into. And because the player population was so low, it makes it even harder to get matches that are relatively even in terms of skill without having to go out of your way, like joining the Rivals of Aether Academy Discord. Like, I love Rivals of Aether, but I don't want to... I just want to be able to queue into matchmaking and play against someone that's on the same skill level as me. So those were my gripes with Rivals 1. And I'm glad that Rivals 2 feels a lot more accessible. It's less stressful. But even though the game is more accessible, it doesn't sacrifice depth. It still has a lot of competitive integrity. As someone who's played the first Rivals of Aether, I'm very happy with this new approach that Aether Studios is doing with Rivals 2, with all these new mechanics being added to the game. And speaking of the new mechanics, the new specials are actually really cool. Now, some of them are kind of whatever. I feel like Zetterburns is kind of lackluster. It's kind of boring. He just shoots fire from both sides with his get up special, his ledge special. He just like shits out fire, essentially. Like, it just feels kind of boring, at least Zetterburns, but I think what they add to the game, like as a whole, I think is really cool. Oh yeah, teching doesn't feel good in Rivals 2. Now, this could just be a skill issue, this could just be me, but when I try to press my shield button right as I hit the ground, my input either gets eaten or it just doesn't come out in general. I don't know what's going on. Teching does not feel great in Rivals 2. And that also leads me to RTC, or reaction tech chasing. Now, I don't know if the animation is just too long, but it feels like everyone and their moms can just react tech chase the hell out of me. I'm mixing up my options every time. Sometimes I'm doing a get up attack, I'm doing a normal get up, rolling left, rolling right. I'm doing every option under the sun, and somehow I'm still getting comboed. And like I said, this could easily be a skill issue, but I personally feel like the tech animations are too long, to the point where the other opponent doesn't even have to predict what your tech is going to be. They can just react to it, and at some point I feel like you should be able to react to it, but it shouldn't be the main go-to option. And moving on from teching, oh, this was also interesting. Crouch canceling is in Rivals 2. I believe it was in Rivals 1 as well, but it wasn't as prominent in Rivals 1, but it was still in the game. I think it had a very specific use case. Ledge hogging is in Rivals 2, and this is kind of a controversial one, but I actually like ledge hogging. I think ledge hogging is kind of like your reward for getting your opponent off stage. So if I were to compare it to like a traditional fighting game, it's like putting your opponent in the corner. Like, you beat them in neutral, and now you're rewarded with the corner to add additional pressure. And I feel like ledge hogging is basically that same type of principle, where you won the neutral and now you're rewarded for it. And even if you do ledge hog, depending on some characters, you still have a lot of mix-up options to mix up your recovery. So just because you ledge hog, you're not guaranteed the stock. You still have to consider not only the player's character, but also the player's options, how they play the game, how they play the character, how they mix up their options. So ledge hogging isn't as free as people are making it out to be, because you still have a lot of things to consider. And ledge hogging, I play Zetterburn, so ledge hogging, it kills me. I'm gonna go off on a small tangent here, but I think Zetterburn is just not as good as he was in Rivals 1. Especially with his recovery and how he can't even air dodge out of up B. I feel like that just kills him. Because if Zetterburn tries to recover high, his up B is just so telegraphed that it's just so easy to hit him out of it. And if he's going diagonally up, right, if he's sent at like an upward angle, his best option is to down B and up B. So Zetterburn's recovery was already telegraphed, but I feel like in Rivals 2, it's just emphasized now. And I'm not saying his recovery should be buffed or anything. You know what? No, I am saying that. At least I would sacrifice the double jump refresh of down B, and I would rather have up B out of air dodge, because most of the time when I'm getting blasted off stage, I'm recovering from a low angle. I'm not recovering from a high angle to where I can down B safely and then get my double jump back and then up B. Like, most of the time, I'm lower than the stage most of the time. So I would personally like to air dodge out of up B, but again, that's just my personal preference. Okay, I said that was a small tangent, but I kind of went on there. I'm yapping. But anyways, okay, so here's a funny thing here that I've mentioned in my document. You could actually option select the pummel system. So if you don't know what the pummel system is, basically when you get a grab in Rivals 2, you can choose to either do a normal pummel to get extra damage, or you can do a special pummel that's also, depending on your character, can also do damage, but it also has special properties alongside it. And so basically, to get out of the pummel, you have to input the same button as your opponent. But what people don't realize is that you can input both buttons, both your normal button and your special button, and those inputs will still be taken, and so you'll break out of the throw. So how you would do it is, okay, let's say for example, Loxodont throws Zetterburn, right? And Loxodont presses the special button to get the special pummel. I could just press my normal and special button, so in this case it would be AB for me, and I would tech out of the grab. And this happens, or at least I'm speculating that this happens, because when you input your buttons to tech the grab, your inputs don't get locked out. And so I feel like that's the main issue with the pummel system right now, is that it doesn't lock out your input. So what should happen is that when the Loxodon presses the special button for their special pummel, once you press that A button, there should be a small timer that says, no, I will not take your input for X amount of time, so that you can't just do an option select. You can't just roll over the buttons. Because how I would do it is, like, you press the special button, and then like literally a second later, you press A and then B. You roll over the inputs. If you try to do it at the same time, it's kind of wonky. It doesn't really work, but I went to training mode and I tested it out a few times, and you get it a lot more consistently by pressing one button after the other, because the inputs are more discernible to the game. So the pummel system is kind of moot right now. It's kind of obsolete because of this option select. So I hope that they do fix this within the next beta. And since we're talking about the pummel system, we might as well go over shield grabbing and chain grabbing. With Drift DI being out of the game, I feel like not only do you get comboed a lot easier, like even if you change your DI, I feel like it's so easy to combo people. And it's weird because like combos feels a lot stronger. Like it feels a lot stronger in Rivals 2, but at the same time, yeah, combos just feel a lot stronger, and shield grabbing and chain grabbing is also strong because there's no drift DI. Now, I'm not saying that we need to add drift DI back in the game, but I definitely feel like we need something. It doesn't feel as good to get hit by a shield grab or a chain grab. Like, I just feel like shield grabbing is also just really strong in this game. I don't know if it's the size of the shield or... I'm just not too sure. But that's just how I feel at the moment. Oh, okay, this is something kind of random here. Remember the little D icon in Rivals 1 that represents whether or not you still have your air dodge? I would love that quality of life feature to be in Rivals 2. I think that'd be really cool. And okay, so yeah, I do have in my notes that I want to talk about Zetterburn for a bit because he's the character that I've played the most out of my 10 plus hours with the beta. So compared to Rivals 1 Zetter, I don't like Rivals 2 Zetter. I'm gonna be completely honest. His recovery feels worse. He feels like he dies a lot faster in this game, even though there are ledges in this game to help with recovery. This really ruffles my feathers, I'm gonna be completely honest. Compared to Claren, who... I feel like Claren is crazy in Rivals 2, man. Like, most Claren players, they're not even spacing themselves out to get the tipper. They're just mashing, and they're getting it. Like, I don't know what the hitbox for getting a tipper is, but it's absolutely insane. Like, they're getting 5+ tippers per match. And I'm struggling to get even one forward air sweet spot or one up air sweet spot. Like, I don't understand that. It's crazy. Like, especially compared to Rivals 1, where the sweet spots hitboxes are a lot more consistent. In Rivals 2, there it feels so clunky. I really don't like that button. Like, it does not feel good to press. It doesn't feel that good to land either. Now, up air, on the other hand, up air at least feels nice to land. It feels good to combo out of. Getting the sweet spot is like winning the lottery, but at least the up air hitbox works. The forward air hitbox, you see the swipe, and even if you see the swipe hit your opponent, it just misses. It whiffs. So the visual clarity on that is not good. And going into visual clarity as well, I feel like the game is hard to watch in a way. Like, they've done a better job with the dynamic camera, but what I'm really talking about here is certain moves not popping out enough. So for example, I was in training mode, right? With Zetterburn and Loxodon, and I was playing Zetterburn, of course. And I was doing... Oh no, it was Crag. So it was me as the Zetterburn and the CPU as Crag. And when I did neutral air, on top of the Crag, it was hard for me to see Zetterburn. He didn't pop out enough. So that's just one specific example, but overall, I think the game sometimes, it's hard to distinguish what's going on when a character is interacting or hitting another character. It doesn't have enough visual clarity, for a lack of a better term. It doesn't have enough differentiation between the main character and your opponent. Oh yeah, I can also talk about changing your controls. I actually do like how easy it was for Rivals 2 to detect my controller. All I did was move around the joystick and it automatically detected it, so that's great. They also added like a confirmation step to set your buttons, and I think that's a great addition. Adding that extra layer does make the overall process slower, but at least you don't have to go back if to the option you want to set if you accidentally press the wrong button. So adding that confirmation process, it's a lot slower, but I do like that change. It does suck though that there's no button checks or a playtest screen like in Rivals 1. You would have to go in-game currently to see if your buttons are working or if your controller's working in general. so that kind of sucks. And you also can't create your custom controller profiles yet. So every time you exit out of the game or exit out of the beta, you have to set your controls again. Like, you have to do it every single time. It gets kind of annoying, but I hope they do add profiles later on in the game. Training mode. I think training mode is pretty basic for the most part. It does its job, but it definitely needs to be fleshed out later on. And of course it's a beta, but I would rather bring these issues up early in the game's lifespan instead of bringing up these issues 1 month before release, where they can't really do much with within a month. Oh, free camera mode. Okay, yeah. Free camera mode is pretty great, honestly. It's really cool for content creators in terms of like making YouTube thumbnails, combo videos, character guides. Free camera mode is amazing. I love that feature. And I think the last couple of things I want to talk about, it's kind of random, but if you go to... Oh, okay. Yeah, so when you go to play locally or online, at the top, you'll have your settings, and you'll have a settings, a main menu button, and a settings button, which is super convenient. I really like convenience features like those. Not a lot of people will catch that, but it saves a lot of time, and I hope Aether Studios, if you're watching this shitty video of me just yapping on about Rivals 2 in the worst way possible, because I don't even know, I'm not conveying my thoughts in the most eloquent way, but I do want to let you guys know that adding these convenience features, it helps out in the long run, and it also saves a lot of time, so I definitely appreciate it. I also think the UI, and like I said, I know, it's a beta skeptic, I know, but it's better to bring these issues up early instead of 1 month before release, where they can't really do much. So I'm just gonna say it. I do not like the art style of the game. I prefer Rivals 1. And I prefer it not for the reasons that you would think of, right? I prefer Rivals 1 because it has a theme. It has personality. It's 8-bit, it's retro, it has consistency within the game. But with Rivals 2, right now it just feels generic. I really loved the bright colors and the bright atmosphere of Rivals 1. It had like an early 2000s type of vibe, where, you know, games, like a lot of Sega games would have a lot of like bright colors and like flashy music and upbeat music. But with Rivals 2, I don't feel anything. The art style just feels generic, like it just feels kind of bland. I don't really feel anything. And it also feels kind of off as well, because most of the music that's in the game currently are remixes of the previous game. So you're taking music that was supposed to fit the aesthetic of Rivals 1 and you're putting it into Rivals 2, but changing it up a bit. It doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but that's the best way that I can tell you guys. Like, this whole video is so shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. This whole video is so shit. And I do apologize if you're still here. You're trying to figure out what the fuck I'm trying to say. And believe me, I tried for 5 days to make a decent script, and I have all my notes down. I just couldn't word it out properly. So again, I do apologize if I sound harsh or if I'm saying things in the wrong way. But it was either I do this and I just ramble on and talk about my thoughts in no particular order, and I get this video out, or I have all these notes and the video I try to work on the script over and over again to end up not releasing the video just because from all the frustration and stress that I've built up. So yeah, again, I'm gonna keep going, but just real quick, I do apologize. for my lack of wording. I want to get this video out because I do like Rivals 2. I like the direction that the game is heading. I love that they're making the game accessible for newcomers while also keeping a lot of competitive integrity and keeping a lot of competitive depth within the game. So, like I said before, I do like Rivals 2, and I want to provide my own perspective as someone who's played Rivals 1 and couldn't get into it, and someone who's also not good at platform fighters, because I suck at Smash. I suck at Melee, I suck at Brawl, I suck at Smash 4, and Ultimate. I'm very bad at platform fighters. But even though I lost in Rivals 2, I was still able to have fun, even though I'm getting shit on by players that are way better than me. Oh yeah, okay, so just real quick, another cool thing about Rivals 2 is there's like a little versus screen before you actually load into the match. So it shows off like the character art and the background of like the stage like that's picked. I think that's really fucking dope. I like it. And the victory screen animations they're really sick, but I do wish the characters had their own, like, I wish they had their own themes like in Rivals 1. But don't bring back the themes from Rivals 1 though and port it into Rivals 2, because like I said before, it kind of clashes with like the aesthetics of the game. Like, it doesn't really mesh well together. So I do wish later down the line that each character had their own victory themes when the victory screen shows up. And in terms of the music, I prefer the original Rivals of Aether soundtrack over the remixes, but the remixes aren't too bad. And we're almost done here. Oh yeah, okay. So another point of contention that a lot of people have with Rivals 2 is that a lot of people are saying that Rivals 2 has become your typical Smash clone, and I highly disagree with that actually. Just because the game adds shields, ledges, and grabs, it doesn't turn it into Smash automatically. What makes Rivals of Aether, at least in my opinion, what makes it unique is not the lack of ledges or your lack of defensive mechanics. It's the uniqueness of the characters that changes up how players think and interact with one another. And that uniqueness allows for a lot of player expression and individuality. Like, one Zetterburn can play completely different from another one. Like, for example, one Zetterburn could be zoning off with fireballs, another one could be super rushdown, and I like that the game allows for that. So I just think that even if they add mechanics that are ported over from Smash, I think Rivals 2 still feels like Rivals of Aether in general. And oh yeah, I also want to talk about, I completely forgot about this, I don't know why, but as a Rivals 1 player, I feel like in Rivals 2, it's harder to maneuver than Rivals 1. Like, wave dashing, wave landing, and moonwalking does not feel as good. It doesn't feel as consistent like in Rivals 1. Rivals 1, wave dashing, wave landing, and moonwalking felt so good. Like, most of my time spent in Rivals 1 wasn't even me playing against other people. I just like to dick around in the game. I just like the movement, just wave dashing, just wave landing, and moonwalking. Just combining those techniques together, it feels really good. Like, I don't know if it's the input system in Rivals 2. I don't know if it's because it's sprite-based versus 3D. But wave dashing, wave landing, and moonwalking it doesn't feel good to me in Rivals 2. And most people might not agree with that, but if you've played Rivals 1, I feel like you might get where I'm coming from. But the one thing that does feel like Rivals 1, at least at the moment, is dash dancing. Dash dancing feels really good. But other than dash dancing, the overall movement in Rivals 2 I don't know if it's the input system or if it's the engine itself, but it doesn't feel as good. And wrapping up the video, I want to talk about kind of my concerns with Rivals 2 and kind of the pitfalls of Rivals 1. Now, I believe Rivals 1 has... It didn't really fail, but I feel like it became a niche because there weren't that many things you could do casually. Besides, if we took out Workshop, there wasn't much a casual player could really dive into. So, my main concern with Rivals 2 is that, of course, every single fighting game will have their hardcore audience. They'll have their competitive players. You'll always have... Those players are pretty much guaranteed. But getting casual players to come and check out your game, that's the hard part. And so I'm not sure how they're going to get casual players. I know they're going to do a story mode, but if that's all they're going to do, then I'm very concerned. Because casual players are kind of like the lifeblood to any live service type of games. Without casuals, your game is just going to end up becoming a niche again. And so that's like my main concern, is that can Rivals 2, in the long run, can they maintain a casual audience? Can they grow their casual audience? And we'll just have to wait and see, because it's not that I don't believe in Aether Studios, but I'm being very cautious at the moment. Another concern that I have with Rivals 2 is that, will the game do a good job of teaching newer players and encouraging them to become more competitive? So what I'm trying to say is that, will the game be new player friendly? And I've said that the game is definitely more accessible than Rivals 1, but will the game do a good job of teaching and encouraging newer players to be competitive, to play matches, to improve? I don't know. I don't really have the answer for that, but that's just another one of my concerns. And another thing that could make or break the game, besides newcomers and the casual audience, is monetization. How will the game be monetized? Now, this could be a deal breaker for some people, and I wouldn't blame them at all, especially with the current climate of the economy at the moment with inflation. I don't blame people for wanting to be selective in how they spend their hard-earned cash. And so, in terms of monetization, I know they're going to do skins, and I think skins is a good way to do it if they're reasonably priced for the most part. I'm not a big fan of battle passes. I don't like artificially inflating the gameplay time by adding grinding mechanics like a battle pass. Not a huge fan of that. I think it would be cool, like an example of something I would think is cool, is adding a skin or like a theme to like your HUD. So kind of like how Tekken kind of does it with like their health bars. I would love for that to be expanded to like the whole like UI. So like maybe you have like a sakura tree or a cherry blossom type of thing, where like your HUD is like surrounded in like sakura petals or whatever. Or like you have like a modern sleek theme where it's like, or like a modern kind of like robotic cyberpunk theme where the HUD is more like very neon colored, it's bright. Like those are just some examples, but I think that would be something that would be really cool. It adds a lot of like personalization to your game. So I think that would be really, really cool. And I think another thing that would actually be really cool is, so you know how in Overwatch there's like you can purchase like different victory screen animations. Now this would be costly, and I know that Aether Studios is an indie. I know Aether Studios is an indie company, but this could be later down the line. But it would be really cool if you could purchase like different victory screen animations, and you could like set them to whatever you want. I think that'd be really cool. And yeah, for the most part, I really love Rivals 2, I like what they're trying to aim for in terms of like trying to make a game that has a lot of depth and is competitive while also keeping the game accessible for newcomers. So I really like what they're trying to do there. And yeah, I think that's everything I have to say. Like, it was, and like I said, I do apologize for this video. It's so out of order, it's so disorganized, and you're probably having a stroke just listening to me stutter and pause and and trying to going from one topic to another topic like instantaneously without any type of transitions. Like, this video was awful, I'm not gonna lie to you. But I've been working on a script for like 5+ days now, and I've been redoing each word and each phrase over and over and over. I tried to keep figuring out what could be the right words. I wanted to convey my thoughts as accurately as possible, but I don't know why. Maybe I'm dumb as fuck, but I just couldn't. Yeah, one last thing before I go. If you do want to talk about Rivals 2, hit me up on Discord. SimplySkeptic. I am on the main Rivals of Aether Discord, and I am also in the Rivals of Aether Academy server. I'm in those two servers. So yeah, just DM me, hit me up for a voice call or one or the other, and let's chat about Rivals 2. You know, let's talk about the gameplay. How does it feel? Let's talk about the netcode, the current direction that the game is heading. What do you like about the game? Maybe do you like the visuals? Do you like the music? Do you like the new additions to the game? Or are you more skeptical? Or are you more cautiously optimistic about the game? Like, how do you feel? So yeah, if you just want to chat with me about that, yeah, just add me on Discord or just at me in either the two servers and we can chat. So yeah, again, I do apologize for the lack of organization. And Aether Studios, if you are watching this video, again, I also apologize for being all over the place. I do think what you're doing and what you're aiming for is really good. I like the direction you're taking the game, and I'm excited to continue playing. I'm proud to be a Kickstarter backer, and so yeah, I'm gonna head out now. I've pretty much said everything that I wanted to say, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video, I suppose, or not. I mean, this video's so shit, so I don't blame you if you're done with me in general. But anyways, yeah, just take care. I'll see you next time. I should end the video. I really should end the video.